From Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA, and the home of hot chicken, it's the Rick Altizer Show. Sit back, buckle up. Rick will talk with the movers, shakers, and creators who put Christ in Christian entertainment. He's a man who's clear so the world can hear. Here's Rick Altizer.
Hello, Radio Land. This is Paul Aldrich. Welcome to the Rick Altizer Show. I will be hosting today with my very, very special guest, Rick Altizer.
Hey, I'm a guest on my own show.
Hey, thanks for coming into your studio today. Rick and I have been friends for decades. We knew each other out in California. Now we both live in Tennessee. And we were just talking. I said, man, let me interview you about your movie, I Still Believe, the Russ Taff and Tori Taff story. And he said, okay. And so we've pushed record. And here we are, people.
This is great.
Well, Rick, we're just continue the conversation. The movie has now been shown in theaters from coast to coast. Tell me a little bit about an experience. We were actually I was sitting right in front of you, each with our wives, watching the premiere of the movie there in the Franklin Theater, and got to enjoy it in the same space. Was such a treat. How does it feel now that it's out there?
Oh, it was great. It was a surreal moment that night, sitting in the Franklin Theater, a sold out theater. They even the like the handicap seats and all that, they sold all of them. They sold like the day before.
It was jammed.
There wasn't one seat open, which was surreal. And there's, Paul Aldrich sitting right in front of me.
Yes.
And there was Amy Grant and Stephen Curtis Chapman and Phil Kagi, who I'm a huge fan of, and Mark Lowry and Russ and Tori were there.
Yes.
But you spend all this time, in your little office, in your little studio, and you work looking in front of a computer screen. And this whole movie was made in a computer screen. And me going to Bell Buckle, lots of trips to Bell Buckle, and then coming back and then working on my computer, doing it all here and getting the transcript. And so it's all this stuff that you just spend all this time on privately in your own little world. And so then to sit there with this huge packed theater, and then thinking 720 theaters all over America are showing this movie right now, because it was all at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, October 30th. So it was just at that one time.
Yeah.
And so you're going, okay, well, the East Coast they've been watching for an hour, and the West Coast they're not going to start for another hour. But you stop and you think, this is happening right now. It was just surreal.
Wow.
It was a surreal moment that I couldn't quite get my head around, because my head has been around making this movie. And so the thought of showing it, and it's going to be on big screens in movie theaters, was just, for a guy who never in his wildest dreams thought he'd be making movies, it was just weird. But it was amazing. It was just amazing to be there with that crowd who, seemed to be very supportive of what we were doing.
Oh, it was so special in the room. I mean, I can testify to that. And the crowd was sort of the who's who of the music industry, the history of Christian music. People, behind the scenes folks were, longtime friends of Russ and Tori's. So it was a very, longtime faithful insider crowd to be at that moment, sharing that moment with them and with you. And now it is interesting, because I know you as a musician for decades, and now, boom, you're Mr. Filmmaker here these last several years. So tell me how you kind of got there, because, 10 years ago, we would not have imagined you telling the Russ and Tori Taff story, and now here you've made multiple movies. So tell me about the transition from musician to filmmaker.
Well, it was Shonda. It was Shonda Pierce. I had been working with Shonda Pierce with my business partner, doing marketing for her, helping her get DVDs out. That's what he did. Our business plan has always been, I make stuff and he sells it. That's kind of how our and we've had a business partnership now since 2001. So we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you knew those were all music projects you were working on together.
All music. And then he was doing marketing for Shonda Pierce, and then I started doing music for Shonda and started doing some videos for her. My son, David, who you know, was doing weddings. Coming right out of high school, he was filming weddings.
It seems like forever ago, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And he's been on the show a few times. He's a big YouTube channel guy now, and he just moved to L.A. and took our 1-year-old grandson with him. But I was watching what he was doing, telling stories with weddings, and the cameras he was using, and the kinds of lenses he was using, and the editing software he was using. So I was watching him.
You're getting a film education watching your son.
My son, right out of high school. I'm learning
Cool.
this, and so I started doing stuff with Shonda. We started doing little video clips, and she would, and then we started doing little promo things for, hey, I'm going to be in, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, so I started filming her and started doing stuff with her. And so she said to me, I want to do movies. I want to make movies. And I said, well, gosh, I can't help you there, but we can do a demo tape. Remember back in the day where you'd make a little cassette tape of a demo tape of like 3 songs, and you'd send it to the record labels. And if they liked your 3 songs, they would say, okay, we like these songs. Come into our studio and we'll pay for it in a real studio, and we'll record, a couple more songs and see about maybe making an album with you.
Right.
So that's what I was saying. I said, maybe I'll come on the road with you, Shonda, for a weekend, and I'll maybe get 5 minutes, and we'll make a little demo tape, and we'll send it off to movie companies, and maybe they'll see something that they'll be interested in and say, hey, I really like this character. Let's see about working with her.
And you're trying to do something, because she obviously had made many videos, which were like, in-concert videos type, but you're trying to tell a larger story for the first time, something that could go bigger than that.
Right, and our hope was just kind of behind the scenes, Shonda Pierce on the road.
Gotcha.
5 minutes that would make it look good, that she could then take to a movie studio or a producer or something that would help her make some movies. So I go out on the road with her for one weekend, and I come back and I get 16 minutes. And at that time, her daughter had become estranged from her. She was in a bad place. She was had no contact with her grandchildren. Her husband was so distraught over this, he started drinking, and he was an alcoholic.
Yes.
And she didn't know what to do, and so she moved out. So they were separated because he wasn't stopping, and she had to do the tough love thing with him and say, I can't live with you if you're going to keep drinking. You have to get help. And he wouldn't. And so
you're capturing this drama on film, so you're capturing some live show stuff, but then all this is going on behind the scenes, and you're getting a grasp on it.
And as you know, Shonda, there's nothing phony. There's not a phony bone in her body.
Right.
She is just going to be who she is. And if she's feeling depressed, and if she's feeling, you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
And so you put the camera on her. She's just going to tell you how it is. And so we start. I had a camera and a lens, and I put it on autofocus.
Like the professional photographer you are.
And it was on auto. Everything was on auto. And I knew audio. So I knew how to do audio as from my recording background, having a studio in my home. So I knew how to do audio. So I got good audio on her. I had a little lavalier that I put, and a little $100 recorder, and a little $100 lavalier mic I put on her. So my audio was clean. I had good, clean audio, and I had a good shotgun mic on the camera.
Right.
And so she just started talking to me and just opening up, and she felt really comfortable because we'd known each other for years. She felt comfortable with me telling this story. And so I got 16 minutes of her just opening up her heart. And I've got some live stage stuff of her, funny. I got audio off the board, so I knew how to do that. So I knew how to get good, clean audio. I found out after the fact that when you're making a documentary, your video can be, can be subpar, but your audio can't.
Right.
If you have bad audio, you can't use it. But if you've got good audio, you can use it.
And that's true in comedy in general. The problem with most comedy videos is the audio. And so you can look mediocre, but if you sound great, you can still take the ride.
Right. So it sounded good. So for those just tuning in, you're listening to the Rick Altizer Show, and I'm being interviewed by Paul Aldrich. He's interviewing me.
Yes. And just filling in a few. I do music and comedy. I've toured with Shonda, and so I know a little of this world, but I've known Rick for many, many decades. And so here we are on the Rick Altizer Show. So go on with the story.
So I make 16. Instead of 5 minutes, I get 16 minutes.
Wow.
And Shonda and her manager took me to a pizza place. And they sat me down. They said, Rick, we really like what you did, and we think you need to make this. We want you to do this.
Whoa.
And I'm going, Okay.
Because you thought you were getting filmed together, they would pitch to somebody
Right.
to make the movie.
Never in a million years would I think I would be making a movie.
Right.
I mean, that's just not my wheelhouse. But I did find out, kind of like with what I've talked with Steve Taylor about, being a music producer, the same skill set in making a record and producing a record, it's the same skill set in directing a movie. It's telling a story. When I would produce a record, okay, everything needs to go to this target. I would try to make a focused album.
Right.
Every lyric, every guitar pedal, the kind of strings you use on your guitar, what kind of guitars you're going to use, what kind of amp,
Right.
it's all, that's a cool song, but I don't think that's this record. That's another record.
Right.
And try to make a focused album. Well, that same skill set and working with singers and, learning how to encourage them and how to get them to give you the performance you need, that's the same skill set in directing. Telling the story, making sure it's focused. I don't need this. I'm not going to use that. I am going to use this.
Yeah.
And helping to direct, even in my interview, going, okay, this is this is good. We're going in a good place. Let's keep going in this direction. And seeing a direction that, okay, that really isn't probably where we need to be going here. And so in my questions, redirecting. Mm-hmm. And of that 16 minutes, about 12 minutes of that ended up in the first movie.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a lot of time for just not even having a goal of what you were doing to keep that much. That's amazing.
So it was a God thing.
Yeah.
And, here I am with a camera, a $600 camera and a $400 lens on auto. And I've got Shonda, the whole interview with her sitting in front of the piano where she talks about my manager. He told me your kids will be more excited about having a new car than having a mom. And then she starts crying and she goes, and he was dead wrong. Just those kind of really heavy emotional moments.
Right.
She was so raw and we got it. And you saw her processing. I would be asking her questions that she really hadn't processed through yet.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that. And 12 minutes of that 83-minute movie was that first weekend that I did, not knowing what in the heck I was. And so then it started unfolding. That movie kind of unfolded. Her husband, we got an interview with Shonda and her husband, which was amazing. They got back together, but after our interview, he continued to relapse and basically had a binge, which took his life. As we're filming the movie, he died. And this whole movie, which started out as this kind of let's just do a demo tape of the life of Shonda Pierce,
right,
turned into this whole other thing about how do you navigate when your life just blows up? How do you navigate your Christian faith? And it just became this much bigger story. The movie, I had no idea what I was doing. I was making it up as I went. The movie was the number 5 movie in America the night it comes out. It wins an award, Park City International Film Festival. So it's just kind of, what? So then the second movie, Shonda movie came, and then Russ and Tori had seen the first and second movie, and they liked the way I told her story. And so we talked about telling their story. And so here we are 3 movies into it. I'm now working on a third Shonda movie, so I've got a 4th movie.
Wow.
So that's where it started. And again, still making it up as I go. And that was a long answer to your question.
No. Well, and I think we, looking back, we see the hand of God in all this. I mean, there's so many moments like you couldn't have anticipated. God was making a seismic shift in your life from musician, and I know how much you love music, and I love your music, and then to all of a sudden kind of go, okay, that's going to be the caboose here for a while. And of course, you've contributed original music to a lot of Russ's story. All the background transition things are all things you created so artfully, just fitting in the gap so perfectly. So, but all of a sudden, God's just nudging you and nudging you and nudging you, and now you're telling this story. And Russ is such a musical hero of mine. He's the voice of Christian music in that era and set a standard. And you're telling his life story. I mean, how crazy is that?
Right. It was difficult to take a life, who's had a lot of life.
Yeah, and in contrast to Shonda, you're taking sort of a season, but to take the entirety of Russ's story and do honor to it. Wow.
Yeah. It was difficult, trying to decide what to tell, what not to tell, what I wanted to put in, because really, I could have done 3 movies on Russ Taff.
Right.
I mean, he's had so many. He's had 3 careers. He's with the Imperials, and then he's got a solo career, and then he was with the Gaither Vocal Band. So I mean, he went through all, and then as a solo career, he did every style of music there was, from pop to country to rock to hard rock. I mean, it was just he was just changed so many. So to tell the story, and then his addiction, and then for the first time, he's coming and talking about his addiction, which is something that he kept kind of, not that he was trying to keep it secret, but he just didn't feel like it was a right time for him to come public about it, because I think because he wanted to be sure he was free. Before he talked about it, he wanted to get to the point where he was free.
Yeah, because there had been starts and stops in that process, sober for many, many years, and then relapse and on and on. And you don't want to tell the story and then relapse again.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the worst thing you could do. Yeah.
So just the weight of that was very heavy on me, knowing that this was a big story, way bigger than Russ Taff. What an amazing singer!
Right.
This was such a bigger story than that.
Yeah, this was not Entertainment Tonight fluff piece. Oh, what a great guy! And then he had a bump in the road, and now here he is. The quick little sum up that happens on so many of these variety shows. It's like, oh, you can't just have an entertainer who's good. No, they got to have this backstory, and we're going to get every teardrop out of this thing. To me, it's just so just using people's stories. But you're trying to honor this, be authentic, and I know you purposely went out of the way to not make it just a music retrospective, to make the story the heart of it.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's Russ Taff. You're going to have to say, wow, what a singer. Russ Taff, what an amazing voice. But once we do that in the first 6-7 minutes of the movie, we go on from there. But, I mean, I've got to do that.
Sure.
I mean, I just wouldn't be honoring him. But
and for people that don't know his music, you want it to be accessible to anybody coming in to just go, oh, wow, I didn't know any of this, but then they can enjoy the story from there.
Yeah, 6 Grammy Awards, 18 Dove Awards, 3-time Gospel Music Hall of Fame. The only person alive, I believe, who's been inducted 3 times into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. So, there's some credibility there. There's some, wow, that's pretty amazing. But that isn't the story, that I wanted to tell, or that Russ and Tori wanted to tell. So, yeah, it was big, and it was challenging. It was there was a lot of nights where I'm tossing and turning, and how do I do this and do it justice, knowing that I want to make something that's going to help people. And so, it was just this sense of helplessness. God, Holy Spirit, I need, I was just asking for prayer on my Facebook. I'm asking for prayer at my church. I need prayer. Who here will commit to pray for me every day for the next 30 days? I need people to pray for me every single day for the next 30 days. Who will raise their hand and commit to me right now? I mean, so I'm standing up in church asking, because I knew I needed the Holy Spirit to guide and direct this.
Yeah, and we can definitely see the guiding hand of God in so many aspects of this. For any of you just tuning in, my name is Paul Aldrich, and I am interviewing Rick Altizer on the Rick Altizer Show, and it's such a privilege talking about his wonderful movie, I Still Believe, with Russ and Tori Taff's story woven into every scene of this thing. It's amazing. Now, tell me a little bit. I know things turned for you. You're doing this movie, and it's a 2-year process. You got the thing kind of done. You think you got a handle on it, and then tell folks about the turn here near the end. It's almost done. You've edited this thing.
Yeah, we've got an edit of the movie. We've given it to Russ and Tori, and Russ goes, "You left out the most important part. Why didn't you put that in? The part about me going to the hospital and meeting this pastor who looked so much like my father, and I had this major spiritual moment in this time." And I'm going, Russ, we never filmed that. He goes, no, I know we talked about it. And so I went back and looked, and in my earlier radio show, which we aired here, which was actually the first time Russ ever talked publicly about his alcoholism, was on my show. So he felt comfortable too, and that was the first time he ever said anything about it publicly. It was on the show. Oh. And during that interview, he talked about this experience with this pastor, but we didn't film it. At that point, I didn't even know we were going to make a movie. This was way before
Right.
And so I said, well, Russ, we didn't film it. You talked about it on my show. So the movie was edited. So I go and we go to Bell Buckle and we film the interview. And that's where we also didn't have all the great, for people who saw the movie, we had all this B-roll of Russ and Tori sitting and looking, sad or back to back from each other, or Russ looking thoughtful with all this dust flying in the air. So all those scenes were done, because we were just short on B-roll. We needed that.
That blows my mind, because I thought that was the icing on the cake of the movie, having those scenes interwoven throughout, and the touch of that didn't even exist until you were 3 weeks into editing.
Yeah, that was the
blows
Lord.
My mind.
That was God. And the great thing about that was we knew what we needed. Okay, I'm short on B-roll. What B-roll is I'm talking to Russ, I'm having an interview, or with Tori or his wife, and you can't just stay on somebody sitting there talking. So you show something, a video piece of something they're talking about, or a picture of them from the past. You show something over them while they're continuing to talk.
Right.
You have a visual that helps just keep it interesting. And we were really, because Russ didn't save anything. He didn't have any videos of himself.
Right.
No family videos.
Yeah, and without that B-roll, you'll have the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie would have just been you with one scene, them talking.
Yeah.
And it's just, people are going
It'd
to
be
check
boring.
out. So you've got the audio. Now your images are coming to your mind of what you need, and this is what you created that day.
So we got that, 3 weeks into the edit. We got all that great B-roll. And then he tells this great story, and he says, the pastor's son, he's a pastor, and I think he's got video of this. I think they actually have pictures, So I call him up, and of course the son is so excited for his father to be memorialized in a movie that would be, that's around forever. And they were all excited about the fact that Russ wants to tell this story. Well, they had, within 24 hours, I had a Dropbox link of about 40 to 50 photos and the actual video of what Russ is talking about. And there's Russ on his knees sobbing while this man who looks just like his dad is praying for him.
Oh, my God.
And I've got video of the whole thing. It was like just a gift from heaven. And everyone who's seen the movie, well, I don't know about everyone, but I've had so many comments saying that was the highlight of the movie for them. I sobbed when I saw that. And there's Russ talking about this man who looked like his father, affirming him and praying for him, and Russ just breaking down and finding finally this father God, that he never had this father relationship. His dad was an alcoholic, abusive, very hard and very distant, and to get that father with God, it was just such a powerful moment in the movie, and that was just a God thing. God kind of put that together.
Oh, I totally agree. It was the absolute emotional pinnacle of the movie, and to have it gifted, you just see the hand of God in all that. So tell me a little bit the future here with the movie. I know there's going to be a book. There's I think even an album that's going to be kind of a companion piece. I think, or maybe a new CD.
There's a CD that has been put out that was done. But I didn't even know they're making the CD, and so they made a CD, and they're releasing it. Timing it for the movie. It's out now. It's called Believe, and. Obviously, when they heard them, they were very supportive of the movie, and so we're supportive of the CD. It was great.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do an encore in January. We're hoping to get it in some more churches, in some areas that couldn't get it.
Okay.
Obviously, we can't do an encore now because we've got all the November releases and then Christmas releases.
Holidays, sure.
And it's just too much chatter to get attention. So we're going to do something in January, trying to get it, in Netflix, trying to get it on. It'll be on Christian Cinema. We'll have it where you can go online and pay, $3.99 to watch it, which would be great. That'll help us recoup some of our expenses. Please do that. And then after that, it'll be on DVD. So those are some of the things. The powerful thing about it is just seeing how it's been helping people. People are coming out of hiding, and we're seeing addicts who are giving them a tool to help them navigate their addiction, to realize they need hope, and to keep marriages staying together.
It is a movie filled with hope. People can go to Russ Taff's website, I'm sure, and follow the developments and all those kind of things.
RussTaffMovie.com.
Okay.
RussTaffMovie.com.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll hear many, many more good things about this movie. Thank you, Rick Altizer, for being on your show.
Man, it's great. Thanks, Paul, for having me on my show.
We'll do it again.
I love it. Thank you, Paul, so much. Why don't you come back next week and we'll talk about what you got going on.
Deal.
All right. If there's a show you've missed, you can go to my website, rickaltizer.com, and catch up. Or you can listen to my podcast in iTunes or wherever you hear your podcasts. Just search for The Rick Altizer Show. Altizer is spelled Altizer. I want to thank you for listening. Hey, would you tell a friend about this show and share the love? Be sure to check us out again next week as we discuss how we communicate the gospel through media to our culture. Let's be clear so the world can hear. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.